Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
So the main thrust of our argument in court on Wednesday was that these words, under the instruction of, in concert with, and even to like effect, which was in the original order, those mean something. And AHS has decided and has been arresting people on the basis that those mean nothing. And so they've taken the position that this order is going to apply to all Albertans, no matter what. It doesn't matter if they have proper notice of the order as defined in the order. It doesn't matter if they're actually acting in concert with the named respondents. Doesn't matter if they're actually acting under the instructions of the respondent. They said in court and in their written submissions that it applies to the public at large, which is just unfathomable to me. We made very strong submissions to Justice Germaine on Wednesday that that's illogical, and so I hope that Justice Germaine comes to the same conclusion.
Hey everyone, Adam here for Rebel News, and I am with Sarah Miller of JSS Barristers. Sarah Miller was doing an exceptional job on Wednesday in court defending Artur Pawlowski. And to give us a bit of an update on how things proceeded, we're going to jump straight to Sarah Miller here.
Hey Adam, thanks. So on Wednesday we had contempt hearing against both Artur Pawlowski and his brother David. I believe some of your viewers have probably seen the arrest video that took place on the street. The contempt application was brought by Alberta Health Services. They've alleged that both Pawlowskis were on May 8th acting in contravention of the order of Associate Chief Justice Rook. The order of Associate Chief Justice Rook says people who are named as respondents in that order, or those who are working under their instructions or in concert with them, are restrained from breaching public health orders. Now, the people named in that order are actually Christopher Scott, Glenn Carrot, Whistle Stop. Their events all occurred up in central northern Alberta, campgrounds and Whistle Stop generally. The evidence that was put before Associate Chief Justice Rook had to do with all of their activities, all located in Bowden, Muir, and Innisfil, Alberta. Not in Calgary, not religious services, wholly and completely separate incidents. Now, as you know, and your viewers probably know, AHS knows who Artur Pawlowski is. They know that his church has been operating weekly during this pandemic. They know how to reach him. They know how to get evidence in before Associate Chief Justice Rook to get the order that they are supposedly trying to enforce now. What they didn't do is provide that information to the judge. They went in ex parte without notice to anyone, including Mr. Scott's lawyer, and obtained an order that now they're trying to give a much more broad application. So the main thrust of our argument in court on Wednesday was that these words, under the instruction of, in concert with, and even to like effect, which was in the original order, those mean something. And AHS has decided and has been arresting people on the basis that those mean nothing. And so they've taken the position that this order is going to apply to all Albertans, no matter what. It doesn't matter if they have proper notice of the order as defined in the order. It doesn't matter if they're actually acting in concert with the named respondents. It doesn't matter if they're actually acting under the instructions of the respondent. They said in court and in their written submissions that it applies to the public at large, which is just unfathomable to me. We made very strong submissions to Justice Germaine on Wednesday that that's illogical, and so I hope that Justice Germaine comes to the same conclusion.
And additionally, one of the things that I noticed in watching court was there's that additional layer that the sort of allegation that this doesn't apply to any of these people outside of the Whistle Stop originally. But in addition to that, there's also some notice or some questions about if sufficient notice was provided to the Pawlowski. So if you can maybe touch on that as well.
Yeah, so the order itself actually has a paragraph where, it uses capital N notice, a defined term, throughout the order, and then it gets close to the end, it gives a paragraph about what is required to give notice, capital N notice, to a respondent. And what's required is for it to be posted in an apparent place. They did not post. They know where Street Church holds their activities every Saturday morning. They didn't go there Friday night or Saturday morning before anybody showed up and posted the order. They didn't do that. The other option is they could read it to somebody. There was the constable actually said, I didn't read it because it was too loud and dangerous and whatever. So, I mean, that's fine. He's got two other ways that he could have affected notice: post it, or this third way, which is show a copy of the order. Now, what I suggested was, okay, well, obviously Artur Pawlowski did not have any of those three, right? He was never shown a copy of the order. The first time he saw a copy of the order is when I sent it to him, after he had been arrested and ordered released. It was not posted anywhere, so they didn't do that, and they didn't read it to him, obviously. So as far as Artur Pawlowski goes, there is no notice, and that's important because what the order says is, not only is it a named respondent acting in concert or with their instructions of the named respondent, but also and with notice, capital N. And so they need, what AHS has said is, well, CPS, they issued a really vague media announcement. That should be sufficient notice. Well, then why have a defined term in the order? Why have very clear instructions about how to provide notice? And then why fail to do that? There's no reason why CPS couldn't have posted the order in advance, given it to Artur in some way, shown him a copy, shown me a copy. That's not required, but presumably they could have called me up, said, hey, can you make sure that Artur gets this, blah, 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 this is how we're enforcing it, or read it to him. And they refused to come into the church. They were invited into church. They said, go ahead, come into the church. They could have gone to Artur. They could have found him at any time that morning and read it to him, or shown him a copy. Instead, what they did is they folded up what you see in the video that AHS put into evidence is, before they get there, they must have folded up the order and stuffed it in a Ziploc baggie. And so you can't see the order. You've got in a little tiny Ziploc bag folded up with no words, and that's the notice that they're relying on to anchor both the Pawlowskis in contempt. And my submission to Justice Germaine on Wednesday, that's not even notice for David, and it's certainly not notice for Artur.
And one thing that I found incredibly interesting, and Justice Germaine sort of concurred, in addition to the fact that Artur Pawlowski, his primary language is Polish, and when first approached by HS services, he asked for them to speak to his lawyer. But in addition to that, Justice Germaine also acknowledged that we have clear video footage of a plastic bag being dropped, and then David continuing in conversation with the officers, not being presented that properly. So there's certainly a multifaceted sort of defense to this.
Yeah, so these are two separate incidents. There was another application in court on Wednesday morning before we got to Artur and David's contempt of Rook's order Wednesday afternoon. And on Wednesday morning's hearing, we were talking about, okay, well, they have this other order about inspecting the church. And what happens during that interaction is AHS comes up to Artur, the representative of AHS hands the order to Artur. He says, okay, let me try to read it. She continues to speak. And Artur's English is a second language. Obviously, he knows it well and he communicates in it. But as we all know, anybody who's tried to learn a second language, it's, difficult to read and listen. Whether English is your first language or
particularly a legal document.
And it changed the legal environment. And as Artur indicates in his affidavit that we filed in court, he expected some notice if they were going to go into court and get an order. And there's really no evidence here to say that they shouldn't have given notice. And we're still looking into what remedies we might seek from that.
Wonderful. So then what's the plan moving forward? I know we didn't receive a ruling or anything along those lines, but where do we go from here?
So right now I'm in the middle of preparing my submissions, written submissions on the charter. There was a number of questions that Justice Germaine raised on Wednesday about charter remedies, how the charter applies. Now, to be clear, this isn't to say the public health orders are constitutional or unconstitutional. That is not the argument that we're having today or this week in court. The argument is whether or not the detention itself and what the police did in effecting that detention, if that was constitutional. And so my submission in court was it wasn't, and a proper remedy could be for the whole application to be dismissed. Justice Germaine at least indicated some interest in that, asked a few questions, wanted some more additional information. So right now, AHS, I presume AHS is doing it as well, and I are both preparing written submissions for that purpose. And then we'll submit those today and hopefully have a decision on June 28th.
So June 28th is when Artur and David will probably be back in court?
Yes, we'll
Wonderful.
absolutely be
Great.
back there.
So I want to thank everyone for continuing to follow this story. As always, if you want to help, mounting these massive legal defenses is certainly not cheap. So if you want to help, go to saveartur.com. Any contribution you make there goes to the Democracy Fund. Rebel News sees none of it. It's not going to us in any way, shape, or form. That's a registered charity, so you're going to get a tax receipt. And 100% of those funds are going to help people fight for their fundamental charter-enshrined freedoms. I want to thank you again for tuning into this story, following the story of Artur Pawlowski. I want to thank you for joining me today. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos.
I want to thank you so much for your support. I want to thank you for every dollar, for every donation you have sent to the Rebel News, for the lawyers, that I can stay out of jail. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May God bless you for your heart. You're part of this movement. You're part of this defense. Without you, we would not be able to do what we have accomplished so far. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.